Good evening, everybody. It's back. We are back. We took a week off. It's Welcome to the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. With me, my boy Reek. With us tonight, we have a guest. He began training in 1991. Our guest is from Philadelphia. He started to train in the independent with Philly called TWA, Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. He wrestled with some of the ECW greats, and he wrestled twice a year right now with his own promotion as well as showing up at CWF when their schedule allows. He also is the manager for Catalyst Wrestling in Brooklyn, New York, in which he manager Mr. Darius Carter and the Carter Group. He currently wrestles twice a year. Welcome to the show, Ron Starr. How you doing, my friend?
I am good. What's up, brother? Thank you for having me. It's a huge honor. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, man. Talk about doing it all.
Yeah.
Just do it all.
You know, they say what was the movie The Godfather? Every time you try to get out, they drag you right back in.
Yeah.
You know, once you're in this thing, you're in this thing. You know, and
Yeah.
whether you're a performer or behind the scenes or you're you're a supporting player. You know, once you get a love for this in your blood, it doesn't go right away.
I can speak as a podcaster, and Rico, I think you can speak too. You take a week off, you get antsy to come back, and it's like you got to do it, So it's in the blood, man. So you got to list a whole bunch of stuff that you did when you became a wrestler. So, but can you talk to us about like when you were a child, when you were a teenager growing up? What did you watch? What kind of experiences did you have as a kid with wrestling?
Well, I grew up in Philly, so there used to be. It was called the Philadelphia Arena. It was at 46th and Market, and that's where WWF used to come. We used to see all the early 70s guys, Ivan Koloff, Bruno Sammartino, and I used to watch that on television all the time. So I grew up initially liking the WWF. And I was my great grandfather read a lot of wrestling magazines, so I would read those whenever I'd go to his house, and so I think I really came of age during the rock and wrestling revolution in '83, and Hulk Hogan was the guy then, but I also was a huge fan of Tito Santana, the Invaders, Rocky Johnson. Man, to love Rocky Johnson. I remember when him and Tony Atlas won the World Tag Team title from the Wild Samoans. That was one of those moments that I'll never forget. But then I guess as a teenager, even though WWF had really kind of taken off after WrestleMania, one afternoon I'm home and my friend calls me on my phone and says, "What are you doing?" Now, you need to turn to channel 17. There's this new new wrestling on called WWW. I'm like, what is WWW? I'm a magazine dude, so I'm like, I never heard of WWW. But then I see it's NWA Worldwide Wrestling. And when I tell you, I couldn't have picked a better show to be the first one I ever saw. The main event was Dusty Rhodes, Dirty Dick Slater, and Ricky Steamboat versus Black Bart, Ron Bass, and Tully Blanchard in a bughouse match. That's a pay-per-view main event now, but mind blown. This is on 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and it's crazy. You got Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, Pistol. You had all this talent that I'd only read about, but had never seen because I didn't have cable back then. So Crockett didn't come to Philly until they got that syndication deal.
Yeah.
So, but then I was all in from there. And then not too long after that, the syndication deal also bought World Class, AWA, UWF, WWC from Puerto Rico, and then they would even show like old reruns of IWA from the Midwest. That's what Mil Mascara. I mean, like I really got inundated at that age, as a teenager, and I kind of knew at one point in my life this is what I was going to do. Even so much to the point where like it was other friends of mine in school, and we'd play around in gym or whatever, but I took it seriously because I really wanted to wrestle, And I'm like, why don't we have a wrestling team? And why don't we have this? And why don't we? And the guy's like, oh, you really? I said, yeah, I'm really into this. And so graduated. Now I went to school, came home, graduated. And so then finally, around 1990, that's when the TWA became an independent in the area. I mean, yeah, they would have shows like the WWF would go to Hershey or Wilkes-Barre or Atlantic City, but this was a monthly show in the city. And they were at Mike Schmidt's Sports Bar, and they would have a monthly show. So I started following it. There was a radio show called Wrestling Radio with Joel Goodhart. And Joel Goodhart would talk about all the exploits of the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. And, you know, Seeing Red, The Sandman, you know, all these guys who really were the backbone of the independents. And so, excuse me, I knew about Salvatore Bellomo from WWF. So he was on the ECW. And, of course, Jimmy Superfly Snuka was on those when those old TWA shows. So Joe Goodhart actually had commercials on Wrestling Radio. Said, "Do you think you have what it takes to become a professional wrestler?" I'm like, "Yeah." You know, so he says, "Come down to Ringmasters Wrestling School." It was local. It was close to me. So one day after work, I got my little gym stuff in the bag, and I went down to Ringmasters, and it was literally a ripped up looking ring, but it was, you know, to me that was like the greatest thing ever. It was a wrestling ring in the back of this meathead gym, and here we are. And like, so then I get in there with a guy named Devious Donnie Allen, Jimmy Giannetti, and a guy named JT Smith. And JT Smith at the time was the heavyweight champion of Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. And what I did not know, well, I did actually find out on the radio, JT Smith was African American. So, you know, and for me, I had not seen that many African American wrestlers who were champions of a promotion. So I was like, oh, I definitely need to come here. So I went, I tried out, and they accepted me into the school, and I was ready to start training. And I started, but then at my 9 to 5, I actually had a really bad injury where I damaged my ankle, where I ended up having to have arthroscopic surgery. So I had to put wrestling on the back burner. And so, you know, I was still a fan, but the dream of wrestling was, you know, it was in the back of my head. But then following, World Class becoming global and, you know, Smoky Mountain and stuff like that. So I heard about this new thing called Eastern Championship Wrestling, something that rose from the ashes of Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. I said, oh, wow, that's right in Philly. And like ECW was crazy, you know, because I'd seen hardcore matches, Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, guys like that, Carlos Colon, stuff like that from Puerto Rico and from Japan. But like, I never thought I would see it like right here. And we used to have the Philadelphia Civic Center, and that's where the NWA would come, and World Class would come through there too. And they used to have something called Pro Wrestling USA, where AWA and NWA would combine, and they would throw these shows where they would cross promote. And so I finally went to what they called the ECW arena and saw it. And I'm like, wow, I really want to do this again. Mm-hmm. And so I hooked up with some guys who were hanging around. And so they looked the part, but they looked closer to my age. Because, you know, of course, to me, pro wrestlers look larger than life. But these guys, they looked the part of pro wrestlers, but they look closer to my age. I said, hey, let me ask you something, because you know all these guys. So you guys wrestlers? They said, yeah, well, we're training. Well, we're trying to break in. And I said, well, where do you train? He said, there's a place called Hawkins Gym. I said, where's that at? It's in Northeast Philadelphia. So I went, and as much as I told you that the ring at Tri-State was a mess, oh, this place made the Tri-State look like the Performance Center. You know, it was literally a ring in the back of a dingy garage where they were literally working on cars while we're in there training. So you got 20 guys around this ring that bumps like concrete. And I mean, literally, like, you know, but we were in there 4 or 5 nights a week till the place closed down. And we still had lives and jobs and stuff. So, but I was so hooked at that point. And I said, yeah, this is it. So initially what I said to myself was, I'm going to come back. Maybe I'll be a manager first for these 2 guys who I've met. Maybe I'll just be a manager because I'm pretty good. I can talk, whatever. And so then we're at training, and a lady by the name of Angel Amoroso was there. And in walks New Jack, who we just saw at the arena.
Nice.
And I'm like, oh, wow, you know. So he starts putting us through our paces and see who could bump and who could work. And he said, so he saw us, he watched us do our drill. So he pulls me to the side. He said, you look like you kind of really want to do this for real. I said, yeah, I do. Well, if you want to do that, come back here, start paying your dues. You know, I'll be around and, you know, I'll show you some stuff, you know. And sure enough, I started going and I started training. And I mean, I ate it up. And so rather than be a manager, I kind of fell into a wrestling match. I didn't mean to, but I did. I fell into a tag team wrestling match with a guy, good friend of mine named Sid Barr. We tagged up against the guys they were named Bad Dreams. One guy's name was Jason the 13th. He had the whole Jason mask. And it was a guy named the Mandingo Warrior. And these guys were huge. Like, I'm terrified. But like they said, listen, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna do it. So you gotta show that you belong in there. And sure enough, we went in there. I mean, we knew what the situation was. But I went and I gave it my all, my first match. And you know, my first match in front of a crowd, gave it my all. At the end, they moved to the back, they hugged me, said, man, that was really great. You know, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. And sure enough, I just started building. I started everywhere there was a chance, I'd go help set rings, set chairs, whatever I could do to get 2 or 3 minutes in the ring. Whether it's, and literally I did the same thing in most matches. I would be on the side of the ring till I get the tag. I come in, bump, duck one, duck two, take the clothesline, tag out. That was what I did. That was I was the heat switch guy.
Okay.
You know, so you know, I would be the because one of the guys who I really idolized coming up was SD Jones. And SD Jones was a guy who was highly respected by the locker room because he would make these guys look like $1 million. You know, and that's what you do. And you know, they would always give him a little bit more than most, and you would hold out hope that okay, SD's gonna win this week. SD's gonna win this week. But you know, knowing what I know now, I get it. I get the words and the music of a wrestling match now. I understand. So and I understood that until it was time for me to go to the next level, I had to, you know, what they say, be a carpenter. I had to help build these other guys and make them believable. So, and that's where it was. But then about 97, I met a guy. His name was Isaiah Savilas. He was a local boxing promoter, and he ran into some friends of mine. A guy named Anthony Ramos. He went by the name Nitro, and his tag team partner's name was Orlando Rivera. He's a red belt judoka now, but Orlando Rivera went by Cyclone. They were called the Puerto Rican SWAT team. So I didn't know what that meant, but you know, it was what it was. And so these guys were supposed to hook up with a promoter and go to a show. And the guy, he flaked on the show after he sold all these tickets. The guy flaked on the show. So Aviles was like, well, is it possible to make money from this? He said, yeah, it is possible. So Aviles, he booked out a place called the Felton Supper Club. It was a Latin dance club, dinner club. They called it a Waper Club. And we booked our first show. And a bunch of us were underexperienced, but we were hungry. And we sold that place out by the second show, 1,500 people.
Really?
By the second show, just by telling our friends, because we had that hunger.
Yeah.
So you got to come see us first. And Aviles was one heck of a promoter. He knew what to do. He hooked up with the right radio stations, and he owned a jewelry business. And so he would, just spread the word to everybody. And these people would come in droves, and, to the point where we had outgrew the Felton in 2 shows. So he took an even bigger leap of faith. And he went to a place called the Blue Horizon. Now, the Blue Horizon, traditionally in Philadelphia, is a legendary boxing venue.
Okay.
And they said there's no way in the world that pro wrestling is going to do well in a boxing venue. First show we had 1,500. The next, I think we had 1,700.
Wow.
I think we got closer with 1,900. So by the time March of the next year came around, it was the first time I'd ever been put into a main event. And we sold the place out, the standing room, 2,500 people with us. And we only had one name on the show, and that was George the Animal Steel. And that was the first time I'd ever rubbed shoulders with somebody from that level. And so, and when I say that was like going to a world-class finishing school, just listening, sitting at the feet of his learning tree, just listening and understanding. He taught us how to get by on the road, how to live, how to survive, how to and watch your money. That was a finishing school for us. And I mean, and just to start with him, it was George Animal Steel, Coco Beware, the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, who I became really good friends with up till he passed away. I mean, we learned from so many people who had been there, been to that plateau. And as successful as the GWA was, sometimes you can plateau. And then, it's good for a long time, then it stops being good. And, and a lot of it became some of us and our egos. And, and it's a shame because we had a really good thing. There were literally only two companies in Philadelphia at the time. It was GWA and ECW. And that's also where I had reconnected with New Jack, connected with the Pitbulls, JC Ice from PG-13. Like all these people came through our, and I tell people all the time, oh yeah, I met him. I worked with these guys, but they taught us because I tell people all the time, especially this younger generation, I said, the art of professional wrestling, it said the game is to be told and to be sold. So you're supposed to help you're supposed to give information and knowledge, but you're supposed to help the next person along. And there's a lack of that nowadays. I get told constantly all the time, oh, you old guys, you want it the way it was. I said, no, it's not that I want it the way it was, but that was the foundation that gives you, the platform to do what you're doing now, because you guys have your phones and your tablets and your YouTubes and your Facebooks. Like, you don't understand what it was like for us to have to get footage. The show would have to get filmed, edited, put together on a videotape, not even a DVD, yet a videotape. Then we'd have to wait for the videotapes to be produced in order for us to get the videotape just to watch 5 minutes of what we did. That's what it was.
Right.
They didn't understand that, that's what it was for us, but now it's, hey, can my buddy come in and tape my match on my phone? I mean, but then like, you're so anxious to put your 5 minutes of what you think are really super cool moves on YouTube. You're killing the suspension of disbelief for the fan.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be friends with the fans. You can't be friends with the fans, because if you're expecting them to buy what you're doing, you have to believe yourself, number one. Because why would I buy it if you don't even buy it?
That's right.
And everybody's taking pictures with their friends after they wrestle. Like, bruh. Like, literally, when I was at GWA, we were at a place, it was the Salvation Army. And it literally was a circular arena, and they had 2 entranceways. So literally, we came out with 2 different entranceways, and it kept the suspension of disbelief. Oh man, he's coming from over there. Oh, he's coming. Same thing with the Blue Horizon. And with this Felton, some people came from the stage. Some people came from the bottom entranceway. I mean, yeah, we had the locker room, but we came from different entrances. It didn't look like I was just standing next to the same guy and behind the curtain before I go out to the match. You know.
Yeah.
And a lot of the curtain was taken down in the late 90s. And I get why Vince McMahon did what he did in the 90s as far as that, because at this point, it was no longer a wrestling company. It was an entertainment brand under the milieu of professional wrestling. And people, and I mean, God, praying for that man, and I hope he finds whatever he needs because that man's in trouble right now.
Oh,
But to be honest, I understood. It was a guy I met about 15, 20 years ago. His name was Tristan Spade. And he had the coolest saying, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I understood where Vince came from. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. You know, but it's a business for him. And yeah, I mean, get it. If you want wrestling, you're going to watch Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You're going to watch Japan, which I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Ring of Honor. I'm a fan of Japan. I'm a fan of Chikara. Chikara is like literally like my favorite thing that came out of Philly. I was a huge Chikara fan before they changed up. But well, they're not. They're I believe they're actually coming back. But Chikara had closed doors for a while. But I was a huge Chikara fan because to me, it was good guys, bad guys, superheroes and villains, guys in masks, and it was fun to watch.
Right.
One of my favorite Chikara matches of all time was Brody Lee versus Claudio Castagnoli
Wow.
in a cage, and I was there at the arena.
In a cage.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine those two boys in the cage? Holy heck.
And literally, Brody Lee climbed the cage, and he jumped. And Claudio jumped to his feet and gave him the most thunderous European uppercut I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
And I had my oldest son with me, and it was just like I was gobsmacked. It was such like Chikara was such an experience, and I was he's 13 years old, so he's seeing it the way I saw NWA for the first time.
That's awesome.
You know.
Yeah, and you hear that a lot when you talk about like the younger cats just don't have the respect anymore. Where
at all,
like they just gonna come in and be like, oh no, I know what I'm doing. I'll do it my way. These guys paved the way for you to be there, man. Show the respect to learn from them.
And
Study
the thing
them.
is, and there are so many people. We were taught the right way. You run your mouth. Probably got caught. You probably got you got dealt with, but you didn't run your mouth anymore. Now, if somebody deals with these cats the way we were taught, oh, this guy's problematic. He's abusive. He doesn't want me to do whatever. Let's normalize not listening to these veterans because what do they actually know? More than you.
Yep.
Exactly.
More than you.
100%. You're talking. You mentioned paying your dues. Early on, that was one of my questions I saved for usually last. But you're right. You get there early. You set up the chairs. You set the ring up. Too many guys nowadays, they're like, oh, no, I'm going to come in for my 15 minutes of fame and get out. And that's like,
these guys got to be.
It's got to be disrespectful to you vets, and you got to look at these guys and go, what are you guys thinking?
Especially if I'm running the back, if I'm running a show, and I say to you, make sure you clean your area, make sure you put your stuff away. But yet I'm still looking at your coffee and your trash and your tape and your hot stuff, and I'm cleaning like. Then guys like, well, you didn't call me back. I said because you violated the most. You didn't respect the place.
Right.
Oh,
where'd he go?
Did some Houdini stuff for there.
Okay, yeah. I was like, ooh, here we go.
And we're back.
Okay, you didn't respect the building. You didn't respect the place.
Right.
And if I say something and you don't do it, and I still book you, that means what am I even doing that for?
Right.
Why am I using you if you're not here to follow, the most basic guidelines? Respect the building that you're working in. Respect the ring. Right. If I call a meeting, there was a long time ago. I was working for a company called Local Pro Wrestling, and the promoter he liked to honor guys who had gone before some legendary figures. So New Jack showed up, and due to our relationship, and so like literally he said to him, New Jack, like, listen, don't step on these guys' moments. Don't come out talking about legends. Go do what you gotta do. Understand that these guys made the way for you. And one guy took it upon himself to grip. So now I'm gonna tell you two things happened. So we had the soundboard go out. So we had no microphones. So there was no reason to cut a promo.
Right.
Yet this guy went and found a megaphone somebody had and decided to cut the promo with the megaphone. And literally in the middle of the match, they got the soundboard up. New Jack says, "Play my music." And
Wow.
he got taught a lesson.
Yeah.
But like, bro, we literally said, I said, I'm not going to go against him. This guy mentored me. Whether I'm booking the show or not, this guy is essentially my elder in the game. Now, I will stick up for you if you were right. But I'm not going to counteract what he said or did to you after he specifically said, when I gave him the floor, don't do this. But you do it anyway. And
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I can't, you're a grown man. You make your choices. But you have to live with the repercussions of your choices. And I say that to these guys nowadays. I said, I'm not threatening nobody. I'm not pounding my chest. I'm not making a fuss or a ruckus. Like, if I ask you to do a thing and it doesn't happen, then we'll, and I mean, and I'll tell you, there are people who don't like me in the business, and frankly, I don't care because I have paid my dues, like you said, for years. I am respected. I mean, there are people who don't respect me because maybe they don't get exactly their way. They don't get exactly what they want from me. So, I can't help that. All I can do is be a facilitator.
Yep.
And do the best that I can to help the talent behind me
Right.
go forth. Like literally, the shirt says "Rise." That's the name of our my company's called Pro Wrestling R, Project Wrestling Revolution, and it first came to me as a concept in 2006. I was working for a company called American Championship Pro Wrestling, and I was the booker. And the promoter and I, we for lack of a better word, we butted heads constantly. And as the booker and principal story writer, I had a vision. And I can admit at some points that I did things that may have been out of pocket as far as not listening to him as the owner, but I also understood the fans. And we've told a whole story. And these fans are going to miss the payoff because as an owner, you weren't handling business. So I'm paying this story off to these fans who have supported you the whole time. And I don't care if you don't like it. Because these fans didn't do anything to deserve getting the rug pulled out from under them with no payoff after putting money in your pocket for a year. So I came up with the concept of Project Wrestling Revolution. I wanted to give people who were underutilized, marginalized, and otherwise pushed to the side. I gave them a voice. I gave them a platform. So and this is going through so many iterations and so many different concepts until 2021. I was working with a company called Super Crazy Pro Wrestling, and we had an opportunity to put on a show that was a side project, so to speak. So me and the owner, we worked out something where we can get the show on, and so I partnered with a guy who's a good friend of mine, a guy who I trained to wrestle. And I said, we've always talked about this. Let's look about, putting this thing together, and, we'll put this show on and see how this goes. We got an opportunity to promote this thing and, get some young talent, get these guys out there, get them hungry and, see what we can do. And he says, well, I have a friend who does video production, so that's a thing that's not going to be a problem. And he has a friend who's a DJ, and I said, okay, cool, we can put this thing together. And it's hard work, a lot of promoting, a lot of pushing, and people just the word got out, and people started coming in droves, and they really started supporting the product. So we came up with the idea of the Rise division because I like the concept of rising to the next level. So
Gotcha.
the Rise Championship is like I guess I hate to say it's like the Intercontinental because that's really not what it is. It's not an X Division title. It's just let's see who's up next. Let's see who's the next guy to step up next. And we've really put some good stuff in the ring. I'm going to share the YouTube again later. We put some really good stuff in the ring, and everything we've ever done is on our YouTube channel. Just some of the talent, like some of the guys who have come through our doors since 1991. These guys have gotten shots on WWE, AEW. A good friend of mine, Black G's, he's in NWA. I have a network of people who just want to come and give their time, and they want to help this younger generation achieve and get to the next level, because we didn't have that. See, we had guys who led us, but it was also to where they would teach us just enough where we weren't in danger of taking their place, which I've never been that kind of person. Well, screw that guy, give me his spot. That's not how it works, because I believe fully what you put into the world comes back to you.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah.
Mhm.
The promotion he's talking about, Rico, I talked to Mr. Starr earlier, and I think we're going to try to cover some of that going forward, some of his promotions. So that's going to be exciting for Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, check out the YouTube. See all there's some stuff on there, and it was. I remember back in the late '90s, I was asked to come do a show, and what I was asked to do was so egregiously racist. It shook me that the person who asked me to do it called himself a friend of mine. But he says, yeah, why don't you come do this match? We're going to do it this. We're going to call it this. And I'm like, man, that is so racist. How could you look at me in my face and call me a friend and ask me to do something like that, And I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I understand that if I don't do this, I'm blowing an opportunity to something bigger, but my integrity and my dignity are worth so much more than a quick buck, or because I understand how climbing the ladder is, especially in the wrestling business. But I mean, I have a family, and I'm not. What am I going to stop suddenly and just leave and travel the world? I mean, I have a family. I love who I am in pro wrestling. I love where I am in pro wrestling. Yeah, would it have been great when I was younger in my 20s? It would have been wonderful. But at that time, it wasn't for me. And so it's so funny that I say that now, because at 40 years old in 2010, I discovered something that allowed me to be who I am completely. And that's the first time I ever set foot in the Christian Wrestling Federation in Texas. And I followed them because I'd seen a news story. It was called Wrestling with Jesus. And it was about the guys in Rockwall. And I reached out to them and said, listen, I'm a Christian, I'm a pro wrestler, I live in Philadelphia. I would love to come work with you guys one day. But this was like in 2005 or 6 or something like that, and I'd forgotten. One day I got an email from Rob Vaughn, owner promoter of Jesus Freak. He says, hey, I forget how we got on the subject. Listen, how would you like to come to Texas and spend a weekend with the Christian Wrestling Federation? And of course, and that was, and so I'd known Caprice Coleman and Seth DeLay and Chad Parham. I'd known them from crossing paths being in NWA Georgia, but I didn't know them. I didn't get to know them until the time we all came down for the weekend, and we really bonded. And that's the one thing that I absolutely love about CWF, because it's a brotherhood, and it's family. And Rob and his family are always so gracious to me, and I call his mom Mama Sandy. I love it when I go down there, because I feel like I've always belonged in CWF, and they make me feel as if I belong there. And it's always a wonderful time, and it's always something when you get to see the Holy Spirit move using a professional wrestling show. And I've been there since 20. So what's it? 14 years going on, heading to the 25th anniversary. I've been involved with CWS for 14 years, and the names and the people that I've met, Tarver. I've met some, people who, Tim Storm, who I actually, the last time I was in Texas, I actually got tagged with Tim Storm, which was, great. And we really got to have a good time. And I got to meet one of my childhood heroes. I got to meet Nikita Koloff, which was powerful. And I remember, so, here I am, I'm 50, 51 or 2, whatever. And so I get picked up from the airport, and Nikita comes in on another plane. So Rob takes us to eat. So Nikita comes out, of the other truck, and suddenly I'm 15 years old again. Like, oh my God, it's Nikita Koloff. Like,
Yeah, right.
And so I said, sir, it's such a pleasure. He says, no, brother. I said, say less. And Nikita Koloff treated, I'd already gotten to know Lodi very well. I knew Scott Matthews for a long time. So just to be in that circle of brotherhood is something else. Those guys like to, and we just fellowship the whole time. And we did, one time we did rib Seth DeLay pretty bad, where he he came out the airport, went upstairs and fell asleep. We scared him and woke him up. He broke the bed. That I gotta find that. That's funny. That's one of the funnier ribs I remember. Man, I don't think Seth Spill's forgiven us for that, but that was a lot of fun. Just somebody says you don't fall asleep on the road, and that's the truth. But it was fun. All good fun.
Rico.
Oh, so like throughout your career, man, you've been doing this for a minute. Like, was there any times where people, like, say you got a little hurt or something, and you kind of had people just telling you, "Look, man, you don't need to be doing this anymore. Try to find something else to do. That's too dangerous for you."
Oh, your family's always going to say, "Are you sure? How are you going to do this?" And so, prior to 2017, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that. Prior to 2017, I had done this for a long time, and it was to the point where maybe it is time to hang it up. But then in 2017, I started having some health issues. Oh, actually, I'll take it back. 2011, I had something they called a silent heart attack, but that had to do with my hypertension. I had high blood pressure. So, but I, got myself together. I called myself doing the right thing, trying to lose a little weight or whatever. By 2017, my weight had ballooned up very badly. I was 350, 365, in bad shape, sleep apnea, pre-diabetic, hypertension, potential heart issues. So I go for a sleep study for sleep apnea. So the doctor sits me in the office and says, "Hey, you're 47. Do you want to live to see 50?" I said, "Of course I do." He says, "The way you're going, you're not going to live to see 48. And so she says, "We have a couple options for you. And one of them is the gastric sleeve." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, what we'll do, we'll do a laparoscopic procedure where we take half your stomach, and it's also the half that's been expanded from, overeating, whatever. And it's also the part that, that tells your hunger. So that I'm hungry, I have to eat now, because sometimes when you overeat, it's not even that you're hungry, and then your mind tells you, oh, you're hungry. You got to eat this now. You got to eat this now. You got to eat this now. And you find yourself eating stuff that, you didn't need, you didn't never need, And I remember when the nutritionist said, I need you to take this piece of paper and write down what you eat every day. And so it's like, oh, get up, I have a cup of coffee, or I'll go to Wawa and I'll get some coffee. I'll get a breakfast sandwich. Oh, I gotta have a donut too. Oh, by the way, I need some soda. Just to get me through the day. On lunchtime, I'm gonna have probably big sandwich and French fries. Oh, I gotta have another soda. And I'm probably gonna need a soda in the middle of the day to keep me going. Then when I have dinner, oh yeah, guess what? I'm gonna have some soda. With dinner, and I'll probably just be watching TV, sit down eating snacks, drinking soda.
Mhm.
So the doctor says, now I need you to look at what you're doing and what's the factor. I said, wow, I drink a lot of soda. I don't drink a whole lot of water. Wow. And so he says, this is the first thing you're going to do. We're going to eliminate the soda. And, we're going to start you drinking more water. So he says, leading up to this to the surgery, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start, and also I had a hiatal hernia too. So I had to have two procedures. Yeah, I had two procedures at one time. I found that out with the endoscopy when they were doing the initial exam. So they literally 3 weeks before I had the surgery, I went on an all liquid diet. And you want to talk about hard? That was hard. But once I had the surgery and I was able to gradually introduce myself back to, solid foods or whatever, I didn't want soda anymore. I wanted water. And, I literally, on my first checkup, which is maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I was done my surgery, I weighed in at 287. That was the first time I had been under 300 pounds in years.
Wow.
And I initially dropped 150 pounds, yeah. And like I said, and so 2018, I felt great. And I felt like, you know what? I can do this again. And I said, I'm going to keep doing this as long as the Lord allows me to.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at, that's why I don't need to be out on the road every weekend anymore, because that guy, that was 25 years ago. I'm a family man. I got daughter going to go to college, one going to go to his senior year. I'm not that young person who needs to be on the road every weekend. Because trust me, when I was on the road every weekend, I was on the road every weekend. And we're talking Thursday to Sunday. Hop in a car, hop out of a car. That's what it was. Just for the thrill of being in the ring, 5-6 minutes. But you're doing what you can do that nobody else can do. But I really
changing hallway to cool.
I have to say, that wake up call and being given grace and mercy by the Father to change my life, that's been my testimony. Like I tell people all the time, even when I go back to Texas to CFF, I tell people all the time, I said, I'm not even supposed to be here.
Right.
I'm supposed to be dead 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not even supposed to be here. So if you can't tell me that God isn't powerful, He's not merciful, let me tell you a story. And that's just, I've always been steadfast in my faith, even in the wrestling business, even in the face of a lot of the pitfalls that you see, because I've seen people die. I've lost friends, mentors. I've seen folks die. And you say, you sure you want to do that? You want, oh, I got it. I'm good. And then, a guy named Trent Asset was 30 years old when he died.
Yeah, too young.
And Trent was he was like a little brother to me. And I remember, not to bring the mood down, but I remember he had gotten in some trouble, and he got he did a little time in jail. So one day I'm checking into a show. And all of a sudden, somebody jumps in my back and gives you a big kiss on the cheek, and it's Trent. I said, "Oh," and I gave him a hug, and I told him I was glad to see him, told him how good he looked or whatever. So as I'm leaving, I have two of my sons with me, and him and a guy named Rocco. They needed a ride to the bus. I said, yeah, I think I can give you a ride. So Trent's up front with me, and Rocco's in the back with my two boys, and Trent turns and said, "You boys listen to your dad?" They said, "Yeah." He said, "Your dad's a good man. You should listen to him." And this was in, I want to say it was the spring. And by that next year, he was dead. And I never forgot that, it's one of those situations, you don't like to remember anybody. People like to remember the bad stuff. I said, so somebody asked me, why would God take him now? I said, let me ask you a question. For all we know, Trent died in his bed. He was asleep. Would you want God to take him now, or would you want God to have taken him a couple of years ago when Trent wasn't he wasn't in his right mind? He was all messed up. I tend to think that we live our purpose until it's time for us to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, and I mean, like I said, I love Trent, and it broke my heart when he died. Absolutely broke my heart when he died. I just. Sorry, I'm just.
Sorry, man. I got a question. This might brighten the mood again. Okay.
Okay.
I was asked to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your favorite wrestler from North Carolina?
I have three, but Caprice Coleman, Lodi, and Scotty Matthews.
Okay, you got the last one right. Thankfully you put Scotty Matthews in there because that's the guy.
Oh my goodness.
Hey Scott, what's up, brother? Let's feel this, man.
So, man, you have so many. I mean, it's interesting because everything you touched on in the last 47 minutes is. I'm like, that was on my list. That's on my list. That's on my list. So what influence did ECW and ROH have on the independent wrestling scene? And out of ROH and ECW, what do you believe has had the most influence on the indie scene?
Okay, so ECW brought that we're going to do it whether you like it or not attitude, and I think that ECW to me, it really felt like the territories. It felt like the independents, and it became so big, and it showed these guys you had guys, who, for all accounts, and from some, they look like they didn't belong in a wrestling ring, but they showed you that these guys could be great, and these guys could be stars, and I used to love Hack Myers. I used to love watching Sandman, and it was just so great. Sandman had the greatest entrance in professional wrestling history. I defy anybody to say any different. And I love Jericho with Judas, and I love Seth Rollins with them singing, and I love Nakamura, and I love Cody. But listen, I was on a show with Sandman in 2019, prior to the pandemic, and when I say the entire building sang the entire song of Enter Sandman, and all he did was walk around, hold the can up, pop his brew, and and he didn't have to do anything else after that. Honestly, that got him. You don't have to do anything else. But I said the less you do in the ring, as opposed to what you do outside of the ring before you get in the ring, that's what's supposed to get him. Look, you get him before you get in the ring. What else you got to do? I literally did a match with a guy named Maverick, and we did a dance off. and we danced and we just did because he used to come out to Cotton Eye Joe. So we did a dance off. Literally did a dance off. Ring the bell. He rolled me up 1, 2, 3. The crowd lost their minds. Let's go. We're going home.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I love that's the entertainment. So as far as Ring of Honor brought that New Japan, that All Japan influence, that strong style influence, and that made these guys work hard. And I believe honestly, a lot of these guys, wrestling, it goes through changes. I came from the barrel chested guys who, it was the DiBiase's and Blackjack Mulligan and Dusty Rhodes, the man, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Those are the guys, Junkyard Dog, these big guys, and it was all about, oh my gosh, he slammed the guy on his head. It was so much impact. But then also ECW introduced a lot of the luchadors and a lot of the pure wrestling and strong style guys to a more domestic audience. One of my favorite ECW matches of all time was Sabu and Rob Van Dam versus Hayabusa and Jinsei Shinzaki. And I actually got to meet Hayabusa after his accident. One of the sweetest guys ever. But that match was, probably one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. And it happened in Philly. No, that didn't happen. That wasn't Philly. That wasn't Philly. So at one of the ECW pay-per-views, like, a lot of these guys, because when people saw Jinsei Shinzaki on TV, he was Hakushi, and he wasn't allowed to be who he is. But ECW allowed these guys to cut loose. I knew Rob Van Dam from the Midwest Indies, in reading in a magazine, but like Rob Van Dam was probably one of the most exciting performers to come out of the independence into the 90s, into the 2000s. And again, you would get guys who were like a lot of my friends were influenced by what they called Omega, which is in North Carolina, the Hardy Boys, Caprice Coleman. These guys, that's where these guys came up, and that was that to me was more of a precursor to the Ring of Honor style that kind of broke through. Steve Corino was another one guy who I really, he was one of the first guys I met at Hawkins when I first decided to retrain. I'm like, oh, I just heard about this guy, Steve Corino. They called him the 4, 5, 6 kids because this is when he was young, no facial hair, still had the brown hair before he did the Rip Rogers blonde hair, brown beard. This is when I first met Steve Corino, and another guy named Reckless Youth. These guys were like, these were the OGs. These were the pinnacle guys. These are the guys we wanted to be. And the funny part is, now in Catalyst Wrestling, I have actually managed Darius Carter against Steve Corino's son Colby numerous times. Matter of fact, we were just on the Premier Sports Network Wrestling Showcase. It was Darius Carter versus Colby Corino for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Like I said, how is this my life? At 53, 54, how is this my life? But I enjoy it because I've been blessed. I know a lot of guys who didn't make it to this age. I know a lot of guys who didn't get to be successful. And I say I'm successful because guess what? I'm here. I'm alive. I've enjoyed my career. I've been on TV. I've been known around the world, and I still got it all. And there's always still room to grow and learn. And so to me, that's being successful in the wrestling business. I don't know. I mean, I know, fortune, fame, and riches would be great, but what is that going to cost you?
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to cost you? So I am very fortunate to be, ooh, don't you fall. I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I am now at 54 years old, father of 4, I'm very, very fortunate that I have been able to live this wrestling life and my kids got to see it. Yeah. And I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm not strung out on dope. But my mother would have killed me. I'm 54 and my mother still scares me. So
exactly. My wife, I won't say my wife's age, but my 31 and my 29 and 31-year-old run from her.
Yeah, like both my parents.
I don't know what it is, but they're like, nope.
My dad will be 80 years old today. He's a Marine from the Vietnam era. I dare not upset that man. So, I'm just because my parents taught me respect, and I was taught to respect them.
Now, real quick. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about the entrances and stuff, I was saying you kind of forgot a big one. The Undertaker, man.
Oh, well, man, let me tell you something. And this is a funny story. So, 94, I'm watching SummerSlam 94. And it's Undertaker versus Undertaker, which is probably one of the greatest. Like, how did they pull this off? Not realizing how much Brian Lee looked like Undertaker. And, like, you would hear that gong, and you would literally, like I'm getting right now, feel goosebumps. I'm like, ooh. Because, like, there would be just dead silence, and you hear boom. Oh, Yeah. I remember when I was at the Spectrum in Philly, was the Undertaker versus the Ultimate Warrior. This is when, because I knew him as me, Mark Callis from the Skyscrapers. Okay. So he had been here maybe a year. And this was like when, I believe Ultimate Warrior was still champ at the time, if I'm not mistaken. No, he might have been Intercontinental champ. So
I think he was Intercontinental at that time.
He was Intercontinental champ at the time. Because I know he was Intercontinental champ twice, because once when he unified the belts, and then he won it back again when he was feuding with Rude. And so literally, it was just so crazy to see all the energy of the Ultimate Warrior running to the ring, and then boom, you hear the gong, and it was crazy. Like, ooh, it's like you just feel this chill. I literally, and I've loved the Undertaker for so many years, even when he did the biker gimmick. But my favorite Undertaker was around WrestleMania 13, when he was the Ministry Undertaker, when he looked like the superhero Undertaker. I said, ooh, I always called him, I called it WrestleMania the 13th Undertaker. Like, that Undertaker was crazy. But then when he did the biker gimmick and he came back, I said, it's not exactly the same, but it feels the same. Yeah. And then when he did his last match with AJ Styles, when he did the
Boneyard match.
Boneyard match. The pandemic was paved the way with so much creativity.
That was epic.
And again, that's how pro wrestling art kind of came to be, during that creative period. Like, we got to do something, because wrestling, you can't have people in arenas, but you can give them something to watch. So yeah, the creativity of that period was something was unmatched, But yeah, the Undertaker. Oh man, I wish we could have got that Undertaker Sting match in their primes. That would have been amazing.
Oh wow, yeah,
that'd be good. That'd be good, because Sting's his last match is in March, like next month. Oh, that'd be sick if they could bring Undertaker to AEW and get that match going. That'd be cool as hell.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be insane.
The only other match I think I would have loved to have ever seen, even though I was told in no uncertain terms it probably never would have happened, it would have been Hulk Hogan versus Nikita Koloff in WWE.
Oh,
wow,
that would be epic.
Could you imagine the build up to that?
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the thing. I mean, not to bring in new wrestling, but that's the thing about the Roman Reigns and the Cody Rhodes and The Rock. Everybody's so bent out of shape that The Rock was going to come back and face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And I'm thinking to myself, there's so much story to tell.
Well, here's the thing about it, and I'm going to say this: do you honestly think, number one, that The Rock is going to win the championship at WrestleMania?
No.
Do you think they're even going to let Roman go? So here's two things: either Roman drops the belt to Cody at Elimination Chamber.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
Ain't gonna happen. No, it's not gonna happen.
And I haven't even been following. I said, "Oh my God, everybody's so bent out of shape." Do you understand? You remember when Kofi won the championship?
Yes.
That was a big moment, and I honestly expected them to do what they did to Zack Ryder, take the title off him the next day.
Yep.
But they gave him a run, and he had a compelling run. And do you know what happened? He ran into Brock Lesnar. He literally ran into Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar hit him with the F5, covered him. He got up, probably took a shower, probably went to eat, went home on his own power, counted his money. I said, y'all took it too seriously. This is their job. And the next week, the New Day were tag team champions again. Like, number one, everything that happened after Mania was sugar money for him.
Mm-hmm.
It was sugar money. Like, hey, I won the championship. I told that story. Now, what happens afterwards is another thing, you know? But my name's etched in the annals. I was the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, and Kofi said it before. It's our job. I come in, they tell me, hey, this is going to happen. Okay.
And when I say Brock took such good care of him, that's what people don't get. I said Brock could have beaten the crap out of him if he wanted to. Could have absolutely brutalized Kofi for 10 minutes and still won the championship.
Mm-hmm.
But they literally said, we're gonna put the title on Brock, and we're still gonna keep you strong. Yeah. Bet. Okay, bet. Oh, we're getting the tag up. Bet. I'm really hoping they turn the New Day heel now. I really do.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
I've been waiting for a real heel New Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That'd be cool. I never thought about that. That'd be cool. Yeah.
I've been waiting for a real heel New Day. This is what I honestly thought was going to happen. I honestly thought Kofi won the title, Big E won the title, Woods was going to go for the title, and then Woods was going to turn heel.
Oh,
that's what I thought was actually going to happen. A heel Woods. Oh.
He's so underrated, man.
Absolutely underrated.
Man, utilize him.
But I mean, but the thing is, people got to realize there are so many people under the banner of WWE, and you got the guys. Oh, that dude's in catering. I said, that dude's in catering, getting paid to eat catering food. He's under contract. All he has to do is go to his mailbox and read his bank statement. You guys don't get it. You want them to wrestle. These guys want to work.
That's true. Mm-hmm. That was explained to me. Yeah, when they were talking about it, we had a wrestler in here that was a announcer, and he said, I took that because that gives me a job. It keeps me healthy. It allows me to get healthy again, and I'm doing what I want to do.
And that's something that happened to me. There was a company that came down when I was still working for GWA. At the end of GWA, before I went to the Infinity Wrestling Federation, there were guys who they came there and they were looking for black talent, urban talent, because they were launching a pilot on BET, and they were going to shoot 13 episodes of the Urban Wrestling Alliance, where we would do storylines and stuff like that. And of course, this is like 1999, 2000. So this is pre 9/11. This is when the world was still innocent, And so I did my tryout match. They liked my tryout match. They liked my promo. And then I had to do a second match. But by this time, the guys from Maryland Championship Wrestling came. Deuce, what was his name? Sim Stucker. He was going by the name Solo at the time. And Sideswipe and Two Dope. And these were guys who had been at a higher level than us. So they only picked about 4 or 5 guys. They picked a couple guys from MCW. They picked a couple of us. So the guy pulled me to the side. He says, "Listen, I got hurt on my second tryout match, but I finished the match, and I still cut a promo." So the guy says, "First of all, I think it sucks that you got hurt in your tryout. We really loved your promos. We really loved how you talk. We really loved your awareness of business. but we're going to be 100% honest. You're 5'8", 5'9". I said, He says, you're too fat to fly and you're too short to shine. I'm like, what does that mean? He says, we want guys that are like 6'1", 6'2", and you're too hefty to be a cruiser guy. But we have something maybe we think you might like. And I said, what's that? How'd you like to be a ring announcer or a commentator? And I'm like, no, I want to be a wrestler, but I'm young. I didn't think, because these guys were in California, living in a dorm, at the studio, at this facility. You're training every day. You're filming stuff. Like, even if I didn't get on the show initially, being in that environment, I probably would have eventually ended up on the show. But me being so not understanding the difference between wrestling and working, I kind of blew an opportunity for myself. I mean, granted, it didn't last but the 13 weeks, and it didn't get picked up or whatever. And it, again, that's one of those things that maybe I should have taken the opportunity, but I understood that was an opportunity that I could have taken, but who knows what my life would have been after that moment, and I wasn't in a position to be where God wanted me yet. So, I tell guys all the time, said, don't blow your opportunities. It may not seem like it's what you want initially, but don't blow your opportunities. See what's in store for you. Take your chances. We may not understand it initially, but take your chances. It may be something good for you. It may start one way, but how you start and how you finish are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So
never know unless you try.
Exactly.
I have one more thing, but I think it'd be perfect to close the show. But Rico, do you have anything else to ask him?
Oh no, because I know we've kind of gone over a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So one more, and I've saved this for last because I think it will solidify what CWF is and what our hearts all should be. And there's a story that I know that one of your best friends is Johnny Lawless.
My man.
There was a story that I believe in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You guys both came to the ring. You had differences between each other.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk us through that story?
So, normally when you come to CWF from out of town, you're chosen to give a testimony. So Rob said, I got this idea. I want you and Johnny to come out and do the testimony together. So I said, cool. So whenever I fly to Dallas, I always wear my Eagles jersey. I'm an Eagles fan. Fly Eagles fly. So, and I know that Johnny's a Dallas fan, but he's not an obnoxious Dallas fan. So I said, I have this idea. I said, you got a Dallas jersey, right? He said, yeah. Do you have a Trump t-shirt? He said, yeah. I said, I have a Biden t-shirt. And he said, and so I asked Rob to give us both CWF t-shirts, but give me a white one and give Johnny a black one. So literally, I walk in the ring with all this stuff on. So I have like two t-shirts and a jersey on. So we walk to the ring. He says, wait, what do you got on? I said, my Eagles jersey. Well, what do you got on? I got all right, let's take these off. We take these off. So now what are you wearing? I got my Biden shirt. I got my Trump shirt. We take this off. So now we both have the CWF shirts on. And so we basically said, listen, it doesn't matter who you root for, who you vote for. This is about a relationship with Jesus Christ. Whether you're black, whether you're white, Republican, Democrat, Eagles fan, Cowboys fan, doesn't matter, because God loves us all the same.
Mm-hmm.
We're all the same in his eyes. And no matter what, he loves us. He always gives us a way for forgiveness. And he wants us, to be in his kingdom at the end. And, that we did that so spontaneously, it wasn't even really rehearsed. But so many people came up to us and said how impactful that was to them. Just to see two people who were literally, who had diametrically opposed differences, but yet and still, they managed to, find a common ground being men, being Christians, and with our love for Jesus Christ. So that was one of those things. I wish I would have taped it, but it did. It's one of those things that people who were there experienced it, and they lived in that moment. And I believe we got decisions off of that too. So that was one of those moments, that really solidified my friendship with Johnny. And honestly, Johnny's like my brother. I don't even, he's like my brother. We literally talk every day. We exchange stupid dad jokes with each other every day. Him and his wife just had their baby boy, and I was with him when he adopted his daughter Kiki. So, and that's not my story to tell, but they had a journey to get to where they are now. I love that man, and he's like literally, he's my brother. He's more than my best. He's my brother, and that was all due to me meeting him at a CWF show so many years ago, and I'm very grateful for that.
That's an amazing story, and that's why we do this. Rico and I are we're brothers, just because we knew each other for a long time, and my son is married to his daughter.
Oh wow!
And we have the grandbabies, and so it's one thing, and but I call him a brother. I mean, yeah, he's family, but he's more like a brother than me than anything, right. And I just want people to know, watching this Huge Pop Wrestling podcast, that because there's a lot of friction in the wrestling world about opinions and about this and about that, and it just bothers me so much. I used to be a TikTok guy, but it got so toxic on TikTok about
TikTok
my opinion is wrong because your opinion is right, and this and that and the other thing. And I just want the wrestling community to understand. Ron Starr just said it. If you can come down, it doesn't matter if you're an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan. It doesn't matter if you're a Biden fan or a Trump fan or a whatever fan to whatever fan. We're all brothers in Christ. We all have the same Father. We all need to just stop the arguing and just love one another like Jesus loved us. And I think this is the reason why. And it's sad because I'm sad because in end of February will be Huge Pop's last interview with CWF Rockwell. And let me tell you something. This journey's been fabulous. I think Rico could tell you the same. We start talking wrestling, but all of a sudden, something the wrestler says about his walk with Jesus and his testimony. Your testimony was amazing, and the story at the end was amazing. It's just, this is why we do this show on Monday. This is why we call wrestling with purpose, because there is a purpose to life. And then we all can be fans. We can all, what I'm saying. It's just a great way, a great thing that I wish somehow, some way that going forward we can still do Christian wrestling of some sort. I hope there's a promotion out there that we can pick up, that we can continue doing this, because I love it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen.
And man, it's just amazing. But I'm gonna close the show. Rico, don't go anywhere. Mr. Ron Starr, don't go anywhere. I'll meet you in the green room. So Huge Pop Wrestling fans, man, it's been a pleasure, Rico, to get back after a week off, man, to hang out with you again. Ron, I love you, man. I thank you for showing up on the show, sharing your stories.
Love you too, brother. Thank you for having me.
It's been amazing. Huge Pop Wrestling, come back Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're doing it all. So I love you guys. Rico, man, I love you. Ron Starr, you're my brother.
Love you guys.
Take care.
All my dogs, make some noise up in this house. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind, cause when your body hits the canvas, then you had to knock out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind, cause when your body hits the canvas, then you had to knock out. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with the devil, because when he's dealing with you, you cannot get on this level. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with a king. It's like a fight with an army. They got the tanks and everything. He's leaving bruises and stitches, possibly leaving you crippled, cause when he sets up the table and sends you straight through the middle. 6 sadistic free, beat that ass with a light bulb. Leave a piece of glass embedded in the back of your skull. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know it's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know it's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out.